All right. Very quickly, live on location, we have Markus Muse in Huntington Beach, California, and he is at Future Proof. And we talked about Future Proof last year when he first attended, and he was so good that he decided to go back again and bring back some knowledge and spread the word. So tell me, Markus, what have you learned in the weekend thus far? High level.
Yeah, I'm going every year. Stuff always changes. A really great presentation I just saw not like an hour ago. Morgan Housel was actually kind of a surprise guest here. He was not supposed to be on the agenda this year. He was here last year, but I guess someone else dropped out, so they contacted him to fill the spot, and he delivered a nice 40 minutes. What did he say? So he says his own investments are 100% index funds, and he says he does not believe that active managers can't beat the market, but the only assured way, his words, of achieving an alpha is over time, and just by simply doing what you're doing forever, as opposed to expecting an active manager to beat the markets for you. So that was interesting. So the first year they did this wealth festival, I guess it's called, was 2022, and there were 1,700 attendees. I knew a few of the Canadians who went, but they were pretty far and few between, maybe less than 50. Last year when I was here, I noticed about 100, and this year, as I mentioned, that number has at least doubled to over 200. Still doesn't represent 10%, but there are a lot of people taking notes. All advisors across the country, various firms, even a few with the banks. One interesting new thing they added this year was a sort of a round table discussion each morning, where they basically pair me up with 7 other advisors. One was from Canada, the other 6 from the US, and they give us a topic to discuss. So yesterday we discussed implementing financial technology. Today, the discussion was future-proofing your business. And I don't remember all the details we spoke about, but one thing that really was notable was how similar everyone's situation was, even between us Canadians and the Americans. Just all the same pain points, all the same goals for our business, the same sort of priorities in terms of our client's experience. And we were talking about things like Jump, using that to streamline. And one of the advisors at the table was someone who has implemented that to his practice, and he spoke very highly of it, and also talked about the challenges of getting IT on board. But that has been a great addition. Sitting amongst all these tables here, again, that you see behind me, I've done I can't count, at least 14, maybe 20 of these sessions. I'm doing a total of 24, so I got 8 more left. What does that mean? 16. I've done 16. Some have been with product providers, ETF companies. Had a really good discussion actually with a guy from Germany. The ETF company is called X-Trackers, and did the entire discussion in German. Just found out he was German, told him I want to practice my German a bit, so let's do that. And X-Trackers is having an Oktoberfest at their tent later on this afternoon. So the other thing too, like really the promotion here at this event, obviously some fund companies want to get in front of advisors, which is what they're doing all the time everywhere anyways. Just lets them get in front of a lot of them for 15 minutes at a time. And then if you see in the distance there, this way, there are some little tents in the distance. A lot of them have kiosks where they're giving away some swag and otherwise trying to start discussions with people.
Yeah, like a trade show or a conference. So what I get out of that, aside from the gorgeous location, is that unlike what some stereotypically people may think about the wealth management or financial planning universe, it is dynamic. There is technology. There are things being implemented. It's ever changing, and so it looks like this is sort of at the forefront of some of the new potential or the technologies or tools that will eventually be utilized by you and I and others in the near future. Is there 1 or 2 things that you'd like to do or experience or to learn before you come back to Edmonton, before you leave California?
This is the getting into the second half of the final day, so I've already been able to experienced a lot in terms of those presentations. This time around, I have not attended as many presentations per se. Last year, it was mostly presentations. This time, it's been more making connections, other advisors, getting a little bit more in depth with a few companies that offer some kind of a service that's useful for my practice. Marketing too has been something I've been looking to pick up a bit more. For example, how do we get this podcast in front of more people? How do I build my email distribution list? And there's actually a presentation early on from a couple of guys, Ben Carlson and a few other social media influencers who talked about that importance about getting into the inbox of people. And it's hard to market in financial advice. It's hard to call up people and say, hey, do you need a financial advisor? It's more about finding out who your end client is. And now I'm actually quoting something that Josh Brown said during his presentation. So basically find out who is the end client you'd like to have me sit in front of, and then work backwards from there. So find out what you need to do to be noticeable by them. If once, when they have a life event, for example, whatever it might be, a liquidation event for a business, or a liquidity event rather. Because not everyone has the same level of needs for financial planning. So that's a key thing, and that's the way that Ripples Wealth has marketed themselves for years and years. It's worked. A couple other Canadian firms here that do a lot of content marketing. That seems to be what works, and it's a matter of sticking out, I guess.
Yep. Do you think that this is something that can be? I want to say, do you think this? You said there's a good Canadian contingent. Anything explicitly that can be taken away that's kind of maybe built for Canada, or that is unique to Canadian experience, or is it generally, like you said, everybody's got the same concerns, questions, situations?
This is the interesting thing in the discussion this morning at the table. We all, even though there are a lot better technology options around here in the U.S., we're all almost on the same playing field in terms of struggling to make the most of the client relationship management system, and again, struggling to diligently do note taking. One guy next to me brings up the issue with having partners in his business who are older and not as keen on using that technology. That's hard to get them to actually make use of digital tools. And someone else joked, I've never heard of that situation happening at all. So it's literally everyone who's in a practice where you have a couple of different generations working. But yeah, for us Canadians, this is a nice. In some cases, it's a glimpse into the future. We know in Canada, for example, that there is some talk now for advisors like us to incorporate. Some talk of changing regulations a bit, and they're really in the early stages. That might sort of lead to a scenario where something like the RIA model makes sense in the U.S. This is another thing explained during the Canadian discussion, which is that in the U.S., if you want to be a completely independent advisor, you want to put yourself out there as a fiduciary, you start an RIA, you can do it with fairly little money, and it takes it can be done with a book of business that's fairly small. You don't have to be a big advisor to do so. The tools are all there. It's cost effective. And that's that. And it's a bit of registration, maybe writing an exam. In Canada, to do something similar is to become an ICPM, which is an investment counselor portfolio manager. To do that, you need to have a CFA. It's a very hard designation to get, or have a certain amount of experience as a CIM. It generally doesn't make sense unless you have a couple $100 billion of client assets for it to be cost effective. There's probably more hoops to jump through. So those types of advisors are fairly rare in Canada. But maybe that'll change at some point. Right now, we're in an industry that's still very much dominated by the banks. And the U.S. once was like that. But maybe eventually stuff will change. Who knows? Anyways,
Excellent.
I'm coming up on 5 minutes to my next session, which was, did I mention what it was?
No, you didn't.
Let's have a look here. Creating a behavioral policy statement.
Behavioral policy, not an investment policy statement, an IPS, an EPS.
Creating a behavioral policy statement. And that's become such a big part of our business too, in terms of even things like risk questionnaires.
Yes.
Some of the very, very basic risk questionnaires, a lot of people have been through them at the bank. They ask certain questions. They get a little bit repetitive, but they need to take the next step up. And I actually talked with one company here, Investipal, I think it was, to see if they have a way of offering that. They offer a suite of things, but they'll offer just a questionnaire. We're requiring them more for our business just for compliance reasons. But we need to take it beyond just the standard risk questions, but also look at those behavioral things, questions that sort of determine what people's behavioral quirks are, if I can say
Sure.
that. Everyone
Yep.
has them.
Yep.
How people are biased one way or the other.
Well,
Anyways.
enjoy the rest of the half of the day, what's left of it. I'm sure you'll bring some good stuff back to speak a little bit more in detail with. So I look forward to that conversation, and bring back some good knowledge to share with all of us.
All right. See you next week.
Yeah, don't get a sunburn.
Too late.
All right.